Okay, so now to go through some details of witchcraft. So witchcraft is thought to be a physical substance. This physical substance is inside people. They say it's attached to the edge of a liver. And when people cut open the belly, they have only to pierce it, the belly or the witchcraft substance, or this little black thing in the body. And the witchcraft substance, or these funky, like dirty hairs, broken nails, or whatnot, will burst through with a pop, which sounds really cool, in fact. It's thought to be sort of a blackish oval in the body filled with witchcrafty items. We'll get into that a little later on witchcraft darts and whatnot. It cannot be found in autopsy. And in fact, there have been instances of people being autopsied after they died, searching for the witchcraft substance. And when it was not found, and then they were declared innocent. So that's intriguing. And there are some sort of instances that Evans Pritchard heard about of people actually finding the witchcraft substance in someone. The one thing that you need to understand is that the only way to really prove someone is a witch is if they are repeatedly accused and the oracles affirm that they're a witch. If there's a pattern, that pattern of witchcraft creates the knowledge, the staid knowledge that someone is a witch. Now, not all people that have the witchcraft organ are, in fact, witches. So in order to be a witch and do witchcraft, you have to be born with the witchcraft thing in your body. But it has to be activated and deployed, usually by your own hatred and jealousy. Now, there's a lot of discussion about how many people who have the witchery in them, just they don't have the hatred or the jealousy or the desire, so it remains cool. It remains cool. It doesn't heat up and go intense. And remember, what is the way to get rid of the witchcraft? Blow water, cooling water out of your mouth. So when it becomes hot, it deploys, and it's bad. So for witch to operate, they must have the jealousy and hatred and the desires to harm others, as well as this inborn substance. Countering witchcraft, as we'll see, involves cooling that substance. We do see that young people do not get accused of witches. And if they are, usually they'll say that some older witch has put the young person in front of them to disguise their behavior. The youth are never thought to be witches because they're not old enough. They're not old enough to have the hatred and jealousy needed, and that witchcraft substance in their body hasn't matured enough to really get going. So older people are the ones most afraid. The people are most afraid of being witches. That witch substance emanates outside of the body. That witch substance moves out of the body and goes to the person that's the victim and steadily drains them of their life force, causing more and more misfortunes upon them. So in this slow decline from ill health or poverty or repeated misfortunes is a sign of witchcraft. And we see this worldwide. We'll see specifically with Deadly Words that this manipulation of a sort of life essence or life force will be really important there. So the witchcraft substance is physical, but its power is psychic. So the witch substance is thought to travel through the air, invisible by day, except to other witches can see it. And then there's this great phrase, I forgot the page that it's on. It says, witchcraft is like fire. It lights a light. It's thought to be light moving around in the dark. I think this is fascinating. Evans Pritchard tells this great story about how he's writing up his field notes. He's hanging out one evening and he hears a racket or something. He just gets alerted and he looks up and he sees this floating fire go by at a distance. And he's like, witchcraft? Who knows? So he grabs his spear, throws his like cloak on and goes out to investigate. So he couldn't find anyone there. But he does notice that the direction that the light was traveling went directly to a place where a person was later accused of, or to a person who was later diagnosed as being afflicted by witchcraft, and I think who died. So he's like, well, I don't know what that was, but that's kind of uncanny for a coincidence. Likely, he argues, it could have been somebody who had lighted a clump of grass and was using that like a flashlight, like a torch, kind of walking through the night. But he continues to argue that he did see it going in the direction of where the witchery was occurring. So that's an interesting and undeniable correspondence. I would argue it's probably somebody walking in the night, but you can see how this type of lore can be supported and enhanced by a material event. Namely, witchcraft has been afoot over there. You look outside, you see a moving light, you go out and you can't find anybody there. What are you going to assume? I mean, you could be materialistic, or you think, that could be witchcraft. Anyway, we will see that generally unpleasant people and generally unpleasant older people are often described and accused of being witches. Cantankerous behavior, just in general, demonstrates jealousy, making people who are cantankerous and unpleasant easy targets for witchcraft accusation. So once again, witchcraft accusations and the fear of being accused of witch makes you behave better. This is a good thing. We could use a little bit more about people, being nicer to one another, more magnanimous, or maybe just not so critical because they were worried that people would think they're witches. Now, I came up with this idea in a class one time. We have this phrase, resting bitch face, which is a phrase we say all the time about, like, usually a woman or a man who just, when you look at them, they've got that look. I definitely have pals who have this. They're delightful people. They just have resting bitch face. What are you going to do? What about resting witch face? Generally, I would bring this up when I would teach this class in person, and we'd joke about resting witch face for the rest of the class. At one point, I think I was thinking about something in front of the class, and the student said, resting witch face? And I'm like, oh, man, you got me. All right, so there's this social function. Negative, nasty people are punished. And positive people are encouraged and generally rewarded by not being stuck in a system of accusations. You don't want to be accused of a witch? Be a decent, generous person. Evans Pritchard does note that there are some people he's met who have been consistently accused of being witches that gives them a sort of prestige because they're so cantankerous and so witch-like that nobody wants to cross them, because even if you disrespect them or get in their way, you're just walking into a witchcraft infestation. Now, as I said, the elderly are considered the most potent witches. So Pritchard describes how a young man who has great success in hunting will send food to all of the elders living near him, making sure to distribute the food fairly and not to slight anyone. Again, the witchcraft system sets up care for the elderly. Sure, you're not carrying out an altruistic love for, older people, but maybe you keep an eye on them and make sure they're doing okay so they don't witch you. That's not a bad thing. Maybe again in our culture, if we were afraid that if we treated old people poorly, they might witch us, maybe we'd treat people better. I don't know. I think I'm a witchcraft apologist when it comes to Evans Pritchard.